NCLR worked really hard to try to increase Latino participation from a nonpartisan perspective. And it's funny that everybody is so surprised about Latinos and how they came out in the election, even though we've been talking about it and building on it for years. And as organizers, I think you understand that when something finally comes to fruition, there's so many people that are so surprised, magic happened. But the thing that's really refreshing about being in this room is that in a lot of those conversations that all of a sudden we've been invited to go talk to people about, like, what do Latinos care about? And this big surprise is that this room really looks more like the face of the country than many rooms that I've been at lately. And the reason it does is because it represents the working families of this country. And we come in all colors and in all sizes and in all accents. I know that organizing is one of the hardest jobs anybody can do. And it's also one of the most underappreciated jobs anybody can have, even within labor. So we have to make sure that our organizers are also appreciated and supported within labor and within each of our organizations. Because I think building the power of whatever constituency we work with and working families in whatever group we happen to be part of requires the elbow grease that organizers bring every day to the job. I think the election crystallized a lot of things. And in many ways, the attention that Latinos have been getting as part of the election and their political participation, I think in many ways, for me, also simplifies how Latino workers in many ways are the canaries in the mine, particularly immigrant workers. How do we build in this moment and this kind of attention and the rattling of the cages that many voters were able to do, voters from the Latino community, from working families were able to do, of all these politicians, and kind of shook them up a little bit? And how do we make sure that they stay shaken up so that they actually respond to the needs of the communities we work with? The other thing is, obviously, I work on immigration, but it is also refreshing to be in a room where I don't have to explain why immigration is important for workers' rights and why immigration actually touches every single issue and every single struggle. And if we don't figure out how to solve that problem, it undermines our fight for workers' rights, for health and safety standards, and for a number of other things. So we have to move it up. And last but not least, that, politics are local and organizing is as local as you get. So there's been a lot of work to not only the work you do every day to improve worker standards, but the work to get those workers' voices heard in the booth and beyond. And now we have to work even harder, right? Because the only people who win on election day are the candidates. When our communities or voters win is when after whoever wins is held accountable to deliver. I also want to say that our work with COSH has been so important and so priceless. People shouldn't die to work. And the fact that full-time work should allow people to lead a full-time life. But full-time work should at least allow somebody to put a roof over their heads, to put food on the table, and to be able to lead a life with dignity for them and their families. And also to try to figure out why it is that everybody talks about the middle class, but nobody talks about the working class. So for us, because it is really important to use this moment of the political rattling of the cages and people saying, whoa, the Latinos, look at that, what are we gonna do to get a piece of that? To try to use that to get folks to understand what they need to do to get a piece of that, right? Because, you know, we all hear a lot of pretty words around elections, and then 4 years we'll hear pretty words again. But I think that our community is demonstrating that nothing is more persuasive and nothing is prettier than action. My mother was working in a garment factory where, because she was undocumented, she was getting paid about $1 an hour and working about 10 hours a day. And that's not a rare story. It is not a rare story. And the reason why in this room, people understand why the immigration fight and the workers' right fight are part of the same struggle is because we know that if there is a person that is vulnerable to exploitation, it also makes everybody else in that shop vulnerable. And that's why I think that addressing the issue of comprehensive immigration reform can actually have can bring a transformative change also in the area of worker rights. At the end of the day, I think it's also imperative for us to push forward in a way where we don't give a free pass to one person because they belong to a certain party. It's got to be about who's going to stick their neck out for workers. So really here the idea is we work really hard to create a moment of opportunity, and we need to take advantage of it. We need to take advantage of it to make the most we can, to elevate the fact that this is a moment to bring workers together regardless of whether they're native born or foreign born. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want a job that allows us to support our families with dignity, and we want our kids to do better.